potential. However, for many visitors, their itinerary to Odisha is limited to exploring landmarks in cities like Bhubaneswar and Puri. But the fact of the matter is that when it comes to heritage, Odisha has an astonishing number of hidden gems tucked away in different corners of the state. On the show today, we introduce you to some of the centuries-old temples, palaces and monuments. While many of them attract hordes of tourists every year, others are relatively unknown and remain unexplored. But all of them are enchanting in their own unique way. So let's get on with the journey and visit the wonders of Odisha, India's best-kept secret. When it comes to tourism, the magnificent state of Odisha is touted as India's best-kept secret. If you have had the privilege of visiting Odisha, you would agree that it is the land of cathartic spiritual experiences and immortal architecture. Worship of the sun god has been popular in India since time immemorial, and perhaps the most famed sun temple in India is the one in Konark, Odisha. A place that most of us have read about and are familiar with. The Konark Sun Temple is listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, a must-visit for every traveler.
Konark is popularly referred to as the Black Pagoda. And I was once trying to find out why it was referred to, because it didn't look black to me. But then I realized that, in the ancient days when people came by ships and boats, it looked like a huge towering black structure. So what you see Konark today, it is almost half the size it was. Originally, Konark looked like a chariot which was about to fly off to the sky.
No trip to Odisha would be complete without visiting this iconic temple. Its architectural splendor has to be seen to be believed. But its greatness can be felt only when you see it with your own eyes. No photos or video can justify the grandeur of this 13th century-old temple. The Konark Temple is so huge that it can easily be seen from the market outside the main campus. Enter the main gate and you would be spellbound by what meets your eye. The main entrance is flanked by interesting structures on both sides. It sends across a powerful message. Here you see a lion and an elephant trampling over a man. It is believed that the lion represents pride, the elephant symbolizes wealth, and together they destroy a human being. So pride and wealth can be your undoing. Thought-provoking, isn't it? But the main temple is even more interesting, built entirely in stone. It is a monumental representation of the sun god Surya's colossal chariot with its 12 pairs of wheels being drawn by 7 galloping horses. These 7 horses are understood to represent the days of the week, while the 12 pairs of wheels signify the 12 months of the year. Some also believe that 24 wheels signify the hours of a day. Interestingly, the wheels are designed in such a way that one can gauge the time of day by looking at the shadow cast on the spoke of the wheels by the sun. The walls of the temple, which was built in 1278 by King Narasimhadeva I, are decorated with sophisticated and refined sculptures of activities from that era. Be it of a woman wearing high heels, involved in martial arts, or carrying portable mirrors, if you look closely at the sculptures, you would be in awe of the craftsmanship. These visually overwhelming sculptural narratives give a precious insight into the lifestyle, and religious as well as political practices of those living in that period. The Sun Temple, constructed by 1,200 artisans in 12 years, comprises several distinct and well-organized spatial units, such as the dance hall and the audience hall. You can spot various subsidiary structures within the enclosed area. While some parts of the temple have been damaged over time, it looks magnificent and continues to draw tourists from the world over. And here's a pro tip. Whenever you plan to visit the Sun Temple, stay on for the spectacular light and sound show in the evening. A masterpiece of creative genius in both conception and realization. 37 kilometers away from the Konark Temple is another equally famous temple in Puri, the Jagannath Temple, one of the most revered and sacred pilgrimage sites in India, famous for its annual Rath Yatra or chariot festival. Its main deity is Lord Jagannath, meaning Lord of the Universe. The temple has been the epicenter of the Jagannath cult. Jagannath consciousness is not just limited to devotees in India, it's a widespread phenomenon, earning Odisha the moniker Land of Lord Jagannath.
We have a huge Odia diaspora who have taken Jagannath outside also. So we have a lot of Jagannath temples constructed outside. But nothing like visiting the Jagannath temple at Puri.
Unlike many other temples where you can park your vehicle close to the entrance, the Jagannath temple requires you to disembark around a kilometer before the temple compound. While you can hire a rickshaw to reach your destination, I suggest that you take a walk to enjoy the colorful street that leads to the main temple. It is full of vendors selling interesting articles, including some souvenirs and other knickknacks. But more than that, it lets you soak in what this place means for devotees of Lord Jagannath. Non-Hindus and foreigners are not allowed inside the temple. Filming, too, is prohibited, so we stayed back. I've heard that it takes an army of around 1,000 cooks to feed 50,000 pilgrims who come to Puri each day. The food is first offered to Lord Jagannath and then to goddess Vimala, after which it turns into Mahaprasad, or holy food. This is freely shared with people of all religions and castes. While Puri has two of the most famous temples in Odisha, it's the capital city Bhubaneswar that is dubbed the City of Temples. Located at a distance of approximately 60 kilometers from Puri, Bhubaneswar is home to around 700 temples. One of the most prominent ones is the Lingaraj Temple, which is considered to be the largest temple in Bhubaneswar. The main tower of the temple stands at a height of more than 180 feet. The sprawling temple complex has 150 subsidiary shrines. Dedicated to Lord Shiva, it represents temple architecture at its finest. The Lingaraj Temple looks over modern high-rise steel and concrete structures, office complexes and hotels. It's a blend of old and new, modern and ancient. The city is a living phenomenon, expanding and growing with each passing day. If you don't feel like braving the crowds to go inside, you can marvel at it from its watchtower.
Odisha is the land of temples, small temples, big temples, plain temples, elegant temples, beautiful temples. You name it, that is there. And what makes it stand out is a very unique amalgamation of the cultural legacy, ancient history, exquisite iconography, and most important, the temples being a part of the life of the local community. So that is the reason why, despite the passage of time, the temples remain a very, very important seat of life in Odisha.
Another attraction is the Bindusagar Lake, situated to the north of the Lingaraj Temple. The devout believe it was created by Lord Shiva by bringing water from all the holy places to quench the thirst of goddess Parvati. A dip in the holy lake would purge them of sins. There is no scientific explanation here, but as they say, faith is all about believing. This is the Mukteswara Temple in Bhubaneswar, built over 1,000 years ago. It features detailed rock carvings and sculptures. Although the mornings here are quite calm and peaceful, the afternoons are quite lively and social. Although this temple is not as large as Lingaraja Temple, it still has its own charm. There are very few temples that can leave you awestruck even before you enter it. And the Mukteswar Temple is one such. It is not gigantic or imposing, yet it's considered to be a gem of Odishan architecture, and you realize why when you see it. The architecture is unparalleled, the sculptures are stunning, and the craftsmanship is so intricate. This arched gateway is one of the most photographed architectural structures in India. The exquisitely carved pillars are a sight to behold. They have been built with matchless precision and skill. It is speculated that the temple was built by Yayati, the king of Somavamshi dynasty in 10th century AD. Historians believe that the carvings revealed that women had an equal position in society in those days. The presiding deity is Lord Shiva, worshipped as Lord Mukteswara, or Lord of Spiritual Freedom. The temple means different things to different people. For some, it's a place of worship, of spiritual rejuvenation and meditation. And for others, it's a priceless piece of architectural and artistic achievement. One that they can't stop admiring. Did you know, during the 8th century to 10th century AD, Buddhism was considered a state religion of Odisha? It is believed that the first disciples of Buddha after he attained enlightenment, Tapasu and Balika, hailed from the modern-day city of Jajpur. Though more than 200 Buddhist sites are scattered across the state, the largest concentration of Buddhist remains can be found at 3 sites: Lalitgiri, Udayagiri and Ratnagiri, collectively known as the Diamond Triangle. A 2-hour drive from Bhubaneswar, these can be explored in a day trip if you start early. We are heading to Ratnagiri first. The name Ratnagiri means Hill of Jewels. I'm at Ratnagiri on top of a hill, surrounded by small stupas called votive stupas. This Buddhist complex was excavated over 60 years ago, and the archaeologists found 2 big monasteries and 1 large stupa, along with a number of smaller structures. Ratnagiri has the most extensive Buddhist ruins in Odisha. One of the first Buddhist universities in the world, rivaling Nalanda, is believed to have been located here. Extensive excavation has unearthed large monasteries, a big stupa, numerous Buddhist shrines, sculptures, and a large number of votive stupas. These votive stupas are miniature versions of the giant stupas seen elsewhere and could have been consecrated as an offering or to commemorate visits. The stone entrance to this monastery is regarded as the most iconic remain of the entire Diamond Triangle. The green-blue tint that you see is likely due to chloride in the stone.
Ratnagiri is the oldest seat of learning, probably one of the first Buddhist universities in the world. And Monastery 1, which is housed there, with a very, very ornate green-colored doorway, and I think a number of cells are there where there are very, very rare statues of Buddha, heads of Buddha, etc. But to think that all those years ago you had around, I think, 6th century BC, you had the first monastery.
Udayagiri is located 12 kilometers away from Ratnagiri and is the largest Buddhist site in Odisha, and also the least excavated in the Diamond Triangle. During an excavation at Udayagiri Site 1 in the 1980s, the archaeologists found a Buddhist monastic complex enclosed within a compound wall, and also an impressive 23 feet tall stupa with 4 images of Buddha facing the cardinal points. The other section is called Udayagiri Site 2 and features a big circular open-air stone platform filled with impressive stone carvings of deities and stupas of various sizes. The remains of this monastery are relatively well preserved. These high walls remained intact, and a staircase indicates that this monastery could have had another floor. The top of these steps offers a good vantage point to see the stone platform. Located 9 kilometers away is the oldest site in the Diamond Triangle, Lalitgiri. An excavation in 1985 by the Archaeological Survey of India led to the discovery of 3 gold caskets. Experts believe that one of them contains a tooth relic of Buddha, making this site the most sacred of the 3. This is Lalitgiri, and out of the 3 different sites that makes up the Diamond Triangle, this is by far the oldest. Lalitgiri was active from the 2nd century BC consecutively until the 13th century. The site is made up of ruins of 4 different monasteries, along with this stupa complex, and there's also a larger stupa on the top of a hill. The remains of the monasteries located at Lalitgiri are not as well preserved as the other ones we have seen, but the number of monasteries found here, 4 different ones to be exact, makes it impressive. The journey from one monastic complex to another makes this tour special, an experience that I will always cherish. Mayurbhanj district is the largest district of Odisha by area and also one of the most populous. It was one of the princely states of India during the period of the British Raj. The rulers of the princely state of Mayurbhanj were Rajputs of the Bhanj dynasty. They ruled the district in unbroken succession from around the 9th century AD. Their home and the cultural and historical capital of this district is the city of Baripada, a 6-hour drive from Bhubaneswar. The previous residence of the family, the Mayurbhanj Palace, has been converted into a college, and the Belgadia Palace, where the erstwhile rulers currently live, has become a boutique homestay. The 2-story wide palace is set in a large garden located on top of a hill, right in the middle of Baripada.
This is the Belgadia Palace, located in the northern part of Odisha. Just recently, this palace has opened its doors to the public. Let's have a look around.
The interiors of the palace are very impressive. The vibrant colors, high ceilings, and stuffed animal trophies give it a regal feel. The different rooms are adorned with period furniture and old-world furnishings. They offer a fascinating insight into a time gone by. Large, life-size portraits decorate the walls, as do the countless books in the library. It is a real delight to roam around the property to see some old telephones, typewriters, and stuffed man-eating tigers. The palace is filled with such bric-a-bracs. There's also a recreation room with a snooker table. This antique gramophone with records of classical Indian music caught my eye.
Wow, this looks amazing. As expected, for lunch they serve a traditional Odia thali, and I'm famished. Time to dig in.
For lunch, I'm treated to a large traditional Odia thali in the palace dining room, with many of the classic dishes in miniature form served on brass tableware. Such a royal treat. The palace has its own organic gift shop as well, with trinkets made of sabai grass, silver jewelry, and local saris. To find out more about the legacy of the Bhanj Deus, I'm meeting with Princess Mrinalika, the daughter of the erstwhile king.
So this was the ballroom, you said?
Yes, so this actually originally used to be the ballroom. All this furniture, you wouldn't have it here.
So now it's quite different than what it would have been like in those days. But there's still so much curiosa all around. It's almost like being a kid in a candy store walking around and exploring the palace. There's so many different things.
That is true. I mean, we pretty much try to keep the originality of it intact. So we did play around a lot with, the wall colors and maybe some of the upholstery. But other than that, the furniture, this is exactly what it used to look like when my grandparents were here and alive. And when we were kids, this is what the living room used to look like. So yes, we did change the paint color, made it a little bolder, made it a little more young, but that's something that we did out of choice. But other than that, the original colors were just like more pastel shades, and we played around with colors a little bit more.
Yeah, there are some pretty strong colors all around it. Like each room has its own distinct style, more or less?
So the rooms have a different style. We've also tried to keep the rooms to be having a different color. So we like to call ourselves a little bit of a boutique property as well, where we can have the chance to play around and not have two rooms looking the same. So some of them have wallpapers, others we just played around with wall paint colors. And all the rooms also have a different name. So the ground floor rooms have names which are basically points of like highlights of Mayurbhanj, like a chow dance or a dokra room, a sabai room. So these are all like handicrafts that are really famous in Mayurbhanj.
Our hosts have invited chow dancers to come for a performance. I've never seen something like this. This dance form is a mix of martial arts and dance, played to traditional music. What a nice way to end the day, with the sounds of drums and flutes playing into the night, and the Belgadia Palace as a backdrop. While the Belgadia Palace gives you an experience of a boutique homestay, the Killa Aul Palace offers a more authentic royal escapade. The owners of the palace, Braja Keshari Deb and Himantika Kumar Devi, have retained its old-world charm, while ensuring that visitors have access to modern-day amenities. The Fort-cum residence of the royal family of Aul is situated at a distance of around 120 kilometers from the Bhubaneswar airport. It's a 3-hour drive. A walk from the entrance to the main courtyard of the 16th century heritage property transports you to a bygone era. A tour of the palace that has been home to 19 generations of rulers revealed that some parts of the palace have weathered the passage of time better than others. The stay at the palace is comfortable, but it's the sumptuous meals, fresh seafood, and great hospitality that add to the overall experience.
The tourist coming to a royal heritage palace would be getting the taste of the old world charm, which a modern hotel would never be able to provide.
What I love about this place is its unique location. The Killa Aul Palace has been built on River Karasrota, a tributary of River Brahmani. The river touches the palace walls from the west and the north, giving it a look of a riverside fort. You can spend hours sitting outside overlooking the river. It's quite a romantic destination and an ideal place for solitude seekers. The change of tides and water level throughout the day makes the experience even better. For adventurers, the palace owners have water sports activities like kayaking and rowing. A boat safari can also be arranged to see wildlife at the Bhitarkanika National Park. Art lovers can enjoy traditional dance and music performances in the evening. This is such a culturally enriching experience. The Killa Aul Palace makes for a wonderful stay. The rulers of former princely states of Odisha have started opening their homes to welcome travelers. Nestled against the slopes of the Eastern Ghats, the Denkanal Palace is considered to be a pioneer heritage homestay in Odisha. The heritage property was constructed during the second half of the 19th century and has been the ancestral home of the Singdeos for 150 years. Entering this property requires passing several big gates, and it's clear that the palace is heavily fortified. The open living room on the ground floor of the palace displays an unusual trophy of a stuffed elephant. Look at how huge the tusks are. What a magnificent animal it would have been. There are many open areas and gardens spread out across the property. The landscaping is beautiful. The guest lounge located on the top floor of the palace is spacious and airy. The rooms available for guests are also large and have been refurbished with all your expected modern amenities. The current generation of the erstwhile royals, Mr. Amarjyoti Singhdeo, tells us more about how this palace became a homestay.
It all started in this matter that we had such large properties and no way to maintain them. So the only way was to open our homes to the public, to the tourists, to the guests, so that they could get a feel of what was life and history before 1947 and what we could offer them in lieu, and as well as maintain our houses. In 1992, we started in a small way by getting homestay guests in 2 rooms of the house, and over a period of time we managed to build up to 13 rooms which are available for guests.
The Denkanal Palace is one of the largest palaces in Odisha and was the first heritage palace to open up as a homestay. It is a good palace to visit for those interested in history and heritage. Since it's close to Bhubaneswar, it makes for an ideal weekend getaway. This marks the end of our exploration of heritage sites in the state. But our journey, Discovering Odisha, continues next week. India's